Hello, it's Lisa with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, and today's guest is my friend and soul sister, Rachel Lubchansky. Did I say it right?
You did.
Yeah,
You did. Thank
it's
you.
a hard one. I used to have a hard maiden name, so I went from a hard name to an easy name. But anyway, today I'm really excited to have her on for a soul sister conversation, and we both have fertility stories, and I really appreciate you, Rachel, reaching out to me and saying, if you'd like me to share mine. I was like so honored that you would be open and sharing with the community that I serve. And it's a path that you don't ever really want to go on. But when you're handed this journey, you've had a long ride with it, and I will let you share your journey here in a minute. But you are the founder and owner of Real Impact and Sheer Impact, which I'd love for you to share a little bit about that and how you serve women in the community here in Denver and maybe nationwide. I don't know if you serve women all over the country, the world, but love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. It really is an honor to be here, and I'm always happy to share my story. And if there's just even one person out there that derives some comfort from knowing that we've gotten to the other side of this infertility journey, it just makes this conversation so worthwhile. Yeah. Plus, anytime I can hop on a call with you, so fun.
Well, thanks. Thank you.
So I became passionate about supporting women on their entrepreneurial journey, actually as a result of becoming a mom, and having the opportunity to really own my own path and intentionally create the lifestyle that I wanted to be living, which means juggling all the things and keeping my family at the forefront. And so I turned my own experience of launching my first business at 25 years old into a platform for supporting other women to help them launch and grow their own businesses.
I love it. You're all about empowering women and helping them, live their best life. And you and I both resonate on that so strongly. As far as your infertility story, I want to call it a fertility story, your struggle through infertility. Could you share a little bit about how long of a journey it was? I know you had setbacks and it was not an easy path. And would you mind sharing a bit of your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I got married in 2004, and we said to ourselves, well, we'll enjoy married life for a year and then we'll have a baby. And we're both kind of type A planner people. And so we're like, yep, that's exactly how we're going to do it. And we decided to start trying earlier than that, and nothing, crickets. Mm-hmm. So initially just started going to my own OB and talking through what some options were. Was there something going on that maybe we didn't know about? And so we spent a little bit of time there exploring that, starting at those initial stages of just taking some of the, I guess you'd call them entry-level drugs for fertility treatments, like what's it called?
Did you do
Clomid? We've got COVID on the brain, and I'm like, wait, what's it called? Clomid. Yes. And when that didn't work after one cycle, she sent us to a fertility specialist. And my husband and I were kind of nervous about going to a fertility specialist. You read about higher order multiples and you see all sorts of high risk pregnancies that happen as a result of going through fertility treatments. And, we just wanted one healthy baby. So we did our due diligence, did our research, and found a fertility specialist that we thought was very conservative in her approach, and very much aligned with our goal of, helping us conceive one healthy baby.
Right.
And so we embarked on this journey, and it ended up being 4.5 years of starting with those Clomid treatments, doing several cycles of that, then getting into the next level, which is IUI, the intrauterine insemination, and we did several cycles of that with no success, and eventually started our journey of our first IVF cycle.
And I know you went through you had one failed IVF cycle, and then your second IVF cycle They transferred
We
two
transferred 2 embryos. Yeah. So
embryos.
and I do want to mention in that first IVF cycle, we also transferred 2 embryos and neither of them took. And, I'm sure we're going to get into this in conversation, but that waiting period
Oh,
from when they do the implantation to when you find out if you're pregnant is like agonizing. I
like
mean,
yeah, the
really,
2-week wait. So
the 2 week wait, so challenging. And when we found out that I wasn't pregnant after that first cycle, we actually decided to take a break. The second cycle, we implanted 2 embryos and ended up with 3 babies.
yeah, you're a mama triplet.
Surprise! I'm a mom of
Surprise.
triplets.
So one
Yeah,
of your embryos split, which that can happen, and then you
it
had your
happened.
other embryo too. So 3
Yeah.
babies, and they are, how old are they now?
They're 11 years old. So we have 2
11.
girls and a boy. So the girls are identical twins.
Yeah, I can so relate to when you talk about wanting to kind of plan it out and you think things are going to happen when you expect them in the timeline. And that's one of my first pieces of advice to people is like, throw your timeline out the window. It's just setbacks are likely going to happen. And you can't really control the outcome or how it's all going to go about. I really believe if it's in your heart to become a mom, you're going to become a mom in one way or another. But the setbacks, you've had a few setbacks along the way, and you shared 4 rounds. I think you told me you had 4 rounds of IUI, right, when we had talked
Yeah, I mean,
before. I mean,
we
that's a
we
lot. We
must have
kind
done.
of skipped all those early stages. They were like,
I know,
that's
and
not the route for you guys, you got to go right
and
for
in
IVF.
between, we did like 3 rounds of Clomid cycles and then 4 rounds of IUI,
Wow.
and in between those things, there were several procedures I needed to have, and we had what is called unexplained infertility. So they couldn't find any specific reason why I wasn't getting pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that was more comforting
I
because
know.
there's nothing specific that you can do, and so they kept trying different things. So I had a hysteroscopy, which is
Yeah.
so invasive and uncomfortable. Like, if you're not familiar with a hysteroscopy and you're watching us, go ahead and Google it.
Oh my
But
goodness.
we got through it. We
You
got through
did,
it.
and you can look back now and see that I think how it kind of all unfolded the way it was meant to. I like to look at infertility as being honestly like it's one of my superpowers. It's kind of strengthened me in
Mm,
ways that I never knew I had it in me. I mean, I always believe like when you're going through this, you are a strong woman and man to go through this. It's definitely something that challenges you in more ways than one. Can you relate to that idea of infertility being a superpower in some way?
absolutely, in so many ways.
Yeah.
Um, first of all, it did teach me that I was so much more resilient and strong than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
I was the kid at the doctor's office who screamed for like an hour and a half until before they could give me my shots, the immunizations. And so, the thought of having to not just take an injection every day, but to give it to myself was like mind blowing that
Yeah.
I could do that.
Right.
And and then it became a superpower in so many other ways. Really learning to roll with the punches, which I wouldn't say is one of my biggest strengths, but certainly I've learned to evolve and develop over the years through and really igniting that through that experience because you have no control.
Totally. And you experienced the highs and the lows. And what were some of like what kind of helped you the most? Were you doing a lot of outside holistic things? Were you following just your doctor's advice? I'm just curious, if you would share kind of things that helped you get through.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually love this question because I come from a Western medical family and very much believe in Western medicine. And after my first failed IVF cycle, my mom suggested that I try acupuncture. And I sort of rolled my eyes and was like, whatever. One, I've had enough needles, and 2, really, like, is that going to do anything? But then I came around and decided that it couldn't hurt, right? here I was, desperate to become a mother, and I was going to try anything at that stage. So I found a woman who specialized in lots of different female, issues and hormone things that we deal with. And I ended up going to acupuncture 3 times a week during my second cycle. So who knows? Maybe it worked like too well.
Right.
So that was something that really helped. I was running my first business at the time. So this is, in my later 20s. And, I probably was more stressed than I realized. And so if nothing else, acupuncture gave me this structure, this routine, this feeling of control that I could do something to help my situation. And then when I was there, also just that time and space to relax and really just be very present, be very calm, and in like a meditative state. So I do think that was really beneficial. What else was helpful? I mean, I have an incredible partner in my husband, and without him, I could not have done this journey on my own. So I actually know several women who have gone through fertility treatments to conceive children on their own as single mothers. And I just find that they must be incredibly strong women. For those people who follow you and who look to you for support, I would always suggest that if you don't have a significant other in your life with whom you're going through this journey, to definitely find somebody who can hold your hand, be supportive, go through just all the phases and emotions and everything that you'll experience, because it can be quite isolating and sad.
So. I have a client right now. I've been coaching and supporting her, and she's single and has had failed cycles, and just I feel her pain. It is such a deep pain when you're going through this alone. So I'm glad I can be kind of that lifeline for her, you know. And then struggling through this, what were kind of some of the hardest parts for you, would you say? I know you had such a long road with the IUIs and the IVFs and the clomids. I mean, was it the disappointment? Like what were those like lows like for you? What were the hardest parts?
Well, there were several. I would say that feeling of putting your life on hold, putting our life on hold, it was always like, well, I'm not sure we can plan that trip because I might be pregnant, or I'm not sure we should buy tickets to that because what if I have morning sickness? And we did that for over 4 years, right? So like for 4 years, we were just waiting and waiting.
Look at that title of my chapter. Don't put your life on hold.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah, you like have to keep living your life, right?
Yeah. So that was very hard because, again, somebody who was organized, structured, planned everything out, there was just this constant sense of lacking control over our own lives and our journey. The other things, I mean, just the constant disappointment, like the phone call from the doctor month after month, like, I'm sorry, you're not pregnant. I don't even think I became numb to it. Like it just stung every single time.
Wow.
What else? I think had somebody been able to say to me, and of course you should never say this to somebody, but had somebody been able to say this to me, you will be a mother one day. I know it 100%. It would have been an easier process because I could have gone through it and felt like, okay, this will be worth it one day, right? I think what becomes really challenging is that we don't know and nobody knows. And it's really aggravating when people say that to you. You'll become a mom one day. And I'm like, you don't know that. Don't say that to me. Right? Some of the other things that were hard and hurt, as you're going through fertility treatment, sometimes you can get like this bloated looking belly. And if people know that you're trying to get pregnant, but they don't know you that well, then they can misinterpret the situation. So I did have one person actually telling other people, and I'm not even friends with this woman, so I don't know where she came up with this from, but that I was pregnant.
Oh my
And
goodness.
here I was struggling, so that was very
Yeah,
difficult.
people don't realize all the side effects of the hormones that you get to endure,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bloating, the not so fun side effects with
Right.
all that. You kind of touched upon, I was going to ask you about advice you would tell your younger self. You would have liked to have heard that you will one day be a mother. Is that something you would tell, like you would have liked to have heard that then? Would you tell other women that now, like if it's a desire, like you will become a mother? Or what do you think would
Yeah,
help
I
them?
mean, I would not be comfortable saying that. There are so many different ways that we can become mothers these days, and that's the beauty. It's the beauty of modern medical science. It's the beauty of the adoption world.
Yes.
There are several ways of becoming a mother. However, people who want to give birth to their own children, I could not say that to them because I don't
Oh
have
yeah.
that crystal ball, and I wouldn't want to say that to myself either, you
Right.
know. Um,
And I'm
but
thinking
what
like
I would have,
general terms, like becoming a mother in multiple ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, what I would have told myself though was to not put my life on hold,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And it's interesting because my husband and I, after that first IVF cycle, we decided to stop putting our life on hold. And so I have some fun stories with that.
Yeah.
We had decided to buy bikes. We wanted to just spend more time together, and we already had spent a lot of time together. We always have. Even today, we work in the same office in our home. He works for another company, and so we spend a ton of time together. But we thought it would be fun to have bikes. And we had put it on hold for years because we're like, well, we're not going to buy bikes now because then I'll be pregnant and then we'll have a baby. And then,
Right.
we're not going to go bike riding. So we bought bikes after that first failed IVF cycle. And we did. We went bike riding a lot and we really enjoyed it. And we waited then 7 months until the second IVF cycle. We just needed a break.
Yeah.
I, in particular, needed a break.
Yeah.
And spent a lot of time just doing that together. And it was a lot of fun. And then, of course, I became pregnant, 7 months later. But that's okay because today at 3:15, I told my son, we're going to go on a bike ride. And it's on that same bike that I bought before he was
Oh,
conceived.
sweet story.
Yeah. And then the other thing we did was during that 2-week waiting period that you talked about,
Yeah.
on my second IVF cycle, my husband had a business trip in Seattle, and I love Seattle. It's such a special place. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to come with you. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to have fun. I'm just going to do whatever I want. And so we went to Seattle for 5 days, and here I was again, like I was running my own business. So here I was on vacation. So I was taking naps because I was tired, and I got nauseous at dinner one night because we were having Indian food, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever. Like it didn't even occur to me that I could have been pregnant. And I went on the craziest shopping sprees because I'm like, I'm going to live, right? I'm just going to do what I want and live and not put anything on hold anymore. And then it was after that trip that we got home, and not even a few days later found out that that I was pregnant. And then 3 weeks after that, I found out that there were 3 in there. And I would
So you
never be
did
wearing those clothes that I had
oh,
purchased in Seattle.
oh my God. So you did your transfer and then traveled in that 2-week wait time.
I did.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. I think so
Mhm.
many women are scared to do that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
I've
you're
actually
on pins
spoken.
and needles, but I, like you, was living my life, going to social gatherings, and really didn't try to think about it. I was still working and everything, but
Yeah. And it's hard not to. I mean, it's
totally.
next to impossible not to think about it.
Yeah.
But to remove ourselves from our everyday life and to put ourselves somewhere else like we did when I went to Seattle with him, it just gave me
Yeah.
some opportunities each day to get my mind fully away from it.
So that was their first trip, huh?
That was their first trip. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I love what you're sharing because I hear so many times when you really surrender, when you let go. And it's the letting go where the magic really comes in. And you're living your life, you're being joyful. There's that energy that's like resonating in your body. You're happy. You're feeling lit up. And I speak so much about that because it's really important to remember that on this journey. You get so wrapped up in you want things to happen when you want them to happen, and you're creating almost all this more resistance to it. So there's such an element of like when you open up, the space comes in for these babies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, there are optimal work conditions on all fronts, right? Like we're going to be at our best when we're exercising and eating well and getting enough rest and staying organized in our businesses. And it's like the same thing for these babies, right? They need these optimal environments in which to come into the world. And but there's just so much tension there because you want it so badly when you're in it, and it's not happening. And so that's the tension just becomes stronger.
Wow.
And it's just so, I mean, the work that you're doing is so powerful. I wish I would have known somebody like you back then.
Thank you.
Because to be able to really support women through that journey and try to help them ease into the process and just live into it without feeling like they're constantly in that state of tension, I think will be so beneficial and hopefully yielding them positive results sooner.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I know you appreciate the whole connection with the mind, the body, and the spirit. There's such a holistic element to this journey. Did you know that kind of back then? Or have you grown more into those practices now that I've met you? I met you a couple years ago, and I know we know very similar people, right? Who are in that mindset and health and wellness. And were you aware of that kind of thinking back then?
No, I wasn't, and I think that the acupuncture was sort of the beginning of that journey and opening my mind to there being lots of different techniques and modalities out there that can help us really live and feel our best. That was new during that time period.
Okay. You run a business. You have, I think, multiple businesses, don't you? You're always creating projects and speaking and conferences. And how are you nourishing yourself as a mom to 3 triplets? Like, what self-care practices do you do kind of currently to keep yourself like in this energized, lit up, full state? Would you share that?
Sure. Well, the number one thing for me is sleep. Nothing gets in the way of me and my sleep. I am like happy with 9 hours a night on a regular night, and on weekends really content with like 12 to 14 hours. And I know that is insane, but and if I don't, what?
12 to 14 hours. Like
seriously, on Friday nights, my body just like gives. I'm just done.
My gosh, I love it. I'm learning so much about you.
And if I don't sleep that much between Friday night and Saturday night, basically the whole next week, I often feel more drained. So sleep is like number one for me. As a family, we eat pretty healthfully. So, we have well-rounded meals together. We eat dinner together every night. I mean, that's something that is really important to us. And I think part of that balance. And I'm not fabulous at keeping any sort of exercise routine in check, to be honest. It's the one thing that I let go. But in terms of like sort of family contentedness and everybody operating at our best, we try to be outside as much as possible. So even if I'm not out there exercising, we try to take family walks at night or just even play in the yard, get sunshine. We live in this beautiful, amazing state with tons of vitamin D showering down on us all the time. And so, that's all part of it for me.
Are you a morning person? Do you wake up really early? What's your routine?
No, wake me up before 7 and I'm going to be a grouch. I can't.
So when you go to bed, what time do you go to bed at? What time are you?
Well, we try to go to sleep between 10 and 11.
Okay. You start your day later
Yeah, so I just start my day. Typically my day begins anyway with my children. That's really what I'm focused on until they're where they need to be, which of course right now is just nowhere in particular.
Yeah.
But during the school year, I'm really focused for the first hour and a half to 2 hours of my day on them and just getting myself dressed so that I'm ready to go as soon as they're off to where they're headed.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I know you said your husband's been was a big support to you through this whole journey. And um, can you share a little bit? I know Father's Day is coming up. I'm going to be sharing some talks related to males, the male perspective going through infertility. But do you have any insights, like what your husband, how he dealt with going through what you all went through?
Yeah, I do. We talked a lot about it then. We've talked about it now. More recently, as I was preparing for our talk today,
Yeah.
and I would say for him the experience was difficult because he wanted to support me in the way that I needed, and he always did. And he acknowledged, like out loud, that the experience was a lot more physically and emotionally demanding for me than it was for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard for him because coming from a strong relationship, which is what we had then and have now,
Mm-hmm.
he just, it was like, it was hard for him because there was no way to make that better for me, and after our first IVF cycle, I think that might have been the first time I saw my husband cry. And, there were a lot of moments, that one being really pivotal, but not pivotal, but just one that I
No,
remember that
don't
stands
forget.
out for me,
Yeah.
um, but one thing that he said as I was asking him this earlier is, if you're in relationship with somebody, that it needs to be strong before you head into this. That it's not trying to have a baby together or going through fertility treatments is not something to do because you're hoping to make a relationship stronger.
Right.
If it's not strong to begin with, it's not going to have the strength to endure the hardship.
So right.
So I thought that was good advice that he gave. And, like I said earlier, for those who don't have a partner, just finding somebody to go through that journey with who can really be that support.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So good advice for those who have a partner and those who don't. You need your rock, right?
absolutely. And in that time period, like people say, well, it's a good thing you don't give birth to teenagers. And I'm telling you now, as the mother of 3 tweens, it is really a good thing that we did not give birth to tweens, right, or teenagers, because we have the opportunity to develop that unwavering love and affection for them. But I was telling you that because in thinking back, you think it's like so hard in that moment, and it is so hard, right?
Yeah.
But you need that rock then, and you also need it through the parenting journey, because
It
holy
doesn't just
cow,
end. Oh my gosh.
it is tough. It is tough and rewarding and
Triplets is a whole
beautiful.
other ball game.
Yeah, all the
I give
things.
you all the props. Well, when you're in this club, having gone in through infertility, like we've talked before, you really recognize how strong you are, stronger than you think, and just the perseverance to get through this. It's just an honor to be like a fertility sister, of yours, and it
I love
connects
that
you in
term.
ways that you don't ever think, right? I mean, once you meet another woman that's gone through it, you like have this instant bond.
Absolutely. And that's something I didn't actually mention earlier in our journey. For that first year of trying, we just went through it together. It's very private. And after a year, we felt like, okay, this is a lot of weight to bear on our own. We're going to open up to at least our close circle of friends. And that's another piece of advice that I give to people. It doesn't have to be that you blast it from the rooftops or post it on social media, but to have your circle of support, which is really what I do for, creating space for that to happen in business for women as well. That's really a passion of mine. And I think I learned the power of that circle of support and the power of saying yes to community and inviting community in during our fertility journey. And then, of course, during the period of time right after I gave birth to 3 infants, and said yes to inviting community in to support us and help us in raising them that first year. Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I totally believe when you open up yourself to sharing your story, it brings people to you as far as maybe new supports, new connections I know it did for me.
Yeah.
It helped me to
and
share.
You do realize you're not alone, right? So many people have gone through this.
Yeah. And it takes
in
some
one form or
discernment
another
to who you want to share with, and
mm-hmm.
creating those boundaries. And I know certain individuals who struggled in that too. So you do what's right for you, right? And being open and.
Absolutely. It's a very personal decision.
Any kind of final words to, a fertility woman that's listening, and she's just, like you said, you desperately want to be a mom and you're on this path, and especially going through COVID, it's like, if that wasn't enough, and then you're going through this,
Right.
things are finally resuming and treatments are getting back on track. But do you have any words of wisdom that you can share to the ladies who may be listening?
Well, I think we've between the two of us shared several different nuggets in our conversation. But to recap, to have your rock, whether that's a partner, to not put your life on hold, to do your best to be living and really engaging in activities that light you up, that make you feel good, being around people who make you feel good, and finding that circle of support, whether it's hiring somebody like you, working with somebody like you, or finding that person in your small friendship circle. But those are just some really important things. And then finally, just not to give up. As you said, there are so many different ways of becoming a mother these days. And my hope and prayer is that everybody who wants to give birth to their own child will be able to do that. Mm-hmm. But not to give up. I know people who have gone through 9 IVF cycles. I know a woman who gave birth to her first child at 60 years old. I know a woman who gave birth to her first child in her mid-50s. So never give up hope. Anything is possible, no matter what the doctors say.
Hope. You can't put hope on hold, right? Hope is, we give hope. How can people find you? I'll link your website, but can you share your website?
Sure. Yeah. So you can find me at realimpact.com, and those are my initials. So it's REL impact.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Real Impact, and LinkedIn at Rachel-Lubchansky, which is a whole mouthful.
Yeah, I will I'll put that in. And you're creating, do you want to share any of your offerings that you're creating? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm creating a community of women who are also in support of each other, showing up to get the connection, the community, the content that they need to be successful in raising their own businesses. So it's called Sheer Impact Community, and we're inviting in a sisterhood from across the United States, and really happy to be growing that supportive network to help people on their entrepreneurial journeys.
I love it. Well, you've been a big help to me in a lot of ways, so I thank you for doing what you're doing,
Lisa.
Doing this interview, this soul sister conversation. I appreciate it. And for anyone,
been my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And for anyone who's interested in personalized coaching support, you can find me at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com, and YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the good stuff. And my book, which can't wait to share it with you when I get the finalized copy. This is just like a draft copy that I'm waiting on another draft, but it will be available very soon. So Hold On Baby is on Amazon right now. You can get the digital version. And thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to read the book.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for doing this with me today. Bye, everybody.
Bye.